The big question today, are we on the verge of numerous banks failing in America? And is the U.S. government stepping up to save the wealthiest of those among us? Well, it certainly looks that way, doesn't it? And now the Federal Reserve and Jerome Powell are in a very sticky position. You see, inflation remains at 6%, far above the 2% target rate, and punishing millions of Americans with variable rate mortgage rates and car loans, but also pounding them into submission when they go to the grocery store or look at their credit card bill. That is also on fire because of the soaring interest rates. It's a big problem. The collapsing of the Silicon Valley Bank on Friday, followed by Signature Bank in New York over the weekend, underscores just how dangerous this entire situation is, not just to the banks, but to all of us. The Biden administration decided to bail out the banks and protect some of the wealthiest people in the country and, frankly, in the world by guaranteeing that none of their money would be lost. And then claiming, of course, it was not a bailout. But of course it was. Of course it's a bailout. What else would you call it? And by bailing out the banks, they have made it clear that bank managers and those in charge can take as big a risk as they want because there's no actual risk at all. The cost of failure we put on the backs of taxpayers like you and me. That we figured out. In fact, the president of SVB spread around millions of dollars in bonuses over the past couple of weeks, fully aware that his bank was going down the toilet. But I don't think he will ever be held responsible, do you? Neither will his senior staff that have been fired, all of them, all with their pockets stuffed with cash they got by setting the bank on fire and on a course to destruction. And as it turns out, SVB spent billions of dollars on woke causes. Billions. $74 billion, in fact, on Black Lives Matter and other things. And whether you agree with it or not, turns out you paid for it. Because your tax dollars are going to the people that made terrible business decisions or cultural decisions that had little or nothing to do with business. Home Depot founder and billionaire Bernie Marcus, well, he put it this way. Listen.
I think that the administration has pushed many of these banks into more concern about global warming than they do about shareholder return. And these banks are badly run because everybody is focused on diversity and all of the woke issues and not concentrating on one thing they should, which is shareholder returns.
You mean the bottom line's more important than how you feel? The way I feel, though, Bernie. I mean, we all know that standard banking principles were not applied here. I mean, SVB had a director of diversity, equity, and inclusion, but they didn't have a person in charge of risk management to make sure the bank didn't go bankrupt, just like it did. Seems like the priorities were completely out of whack, off base, like everything the Democrats touch. It turned to crap. And don't worry, there's more to come. I can assure you of that, because the root cause of the bank collapses we've seen so far are the reckless spending policies of the Biden administration that led to out-of-control inflation, which led to a decrease in the value of bonds they were all invested in, and then SVB panicked, tried to sell them at a deep discount, and boom, it all fell apart.